welcome to another very special episode of E&Ftv's Bridging the Gap, where I'm joined by not one, not two, but three industry experts to discuss how students can best optimize a career in revenue management. Guys, how are you? Welcome to the show.
Hi,
Morning.
good morning.
Hi, Jason.
Morning. Hi, Jason.
Thank you so much, firstly, for joining us, because it's budget season and let's face it, everyone's mad busy doing that. It's hard to pin anyone down, but you guys have really shown a commitment to the greater good in the industry by giving me like an hour of your time to chat through something that to me is very important, to the students is very important. So to have like three of you on screen is absolutely fantastic. So to kick off, let's just go round in alphabetical order. Start with Ariane. If you could just introduce yourself, Ariane, and say a little bit about what you do initially.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. So my name is Ariane Lengyel. I am the course leader for the hospitality management courses at the University of West London. We have over 300 students studying on the course. I've been teaching for close to 13 years, and before that, I was in industry myself.
Fantastic. Chris?
Yeah, hi everyone. Chris Martin, Group Director of Revenue Management for RBH Management, hospitality management company. We manage about 55 hotels, I think it is, across the UK, from Southampton to Aberdeen. I've been here for 5 years now in this role. Previous to that, I had a broad career across tour operating and different accommodation sectors in the industry, always specialising in revenue management, pricing and commercials.
And Luca?
Hi, everyone. My name is Luca Lattanzi. I'm the head of commercial for Cross Country Trains, which is the train operating company in the UK with the most extended network, and we're a long distance operator. My career spans about probably 12, 13 years between pricing and revenue management in several sectors. I've done hospitality, car rental, IT, and now I'm in the railway.
Fantastic. Thanks, guys. Let's get straight into it then. Chris, firstly, things have changed a lot since the pandemic in terms of revenue management. I'm thinking market segments, I'm thinking lead time, but also work from home, hybrid has become more of a done thing. How can students have the skills change, and how can students make sure that they're up to speed on what the industry's wanting?
Yeah, start with an easy question there, Jason. Thanks very much. I don't think the skills necessarily have changed enormously because of COVID. I think we were moving in a direction anyway where we've come away from that old cliche of revenue management being the dark skills, using Excel, sitting in a quiet room away from everybody. We've had to be much more commercially broad, commercially wise, operationally wise as well for a number of years now, and I think that's important. And how students can prepare themselves for moving into that is to get that rounded knowledge. It's great if students want to go into revenue management and they can see the attraction and the appeal of that. And of course, it is still very numerical and analytical. But if you're going to make decisions like we have to make, you have to make quick decisions. You've got to analyze data and make decisions and have the confidence in those decisions and have the presentation skills to be able to talk about those decisions and what's happened. Then those are some of the skills that you need to get by being out and about, walking the floors, seeing what's happening in the operation, watching customers, watching customer behavior, watching your colleagues' behavior, and just being observant as to what's going on. I think all those little soft skills need to come together much more. They're much more important that they come together these days even in the analytical skill set of what we do.
And that's something that you're looking at, I suppose, at interview, isn't it? The ability to present, to project, to influence, all those soft skills that previously weren't so important and now more important than ever post-pandemic. Yeah,
I mean, I don't think interviews haven't. I don't think the point of an interview hasn't changed. When you're in an interview situation, you are selling yourself to a potential employer. You've got to make yourself appealing. So you've got to have some presentation skills and a bit of life and confidence about you to be successful in an interview in whatever environment. I think where things have perhaps changed a little bit in terms of the home working and the sort of the remote working is that those communication skills really come to the fore more, because you're not sat in an office surrounded by people that you can just turn to the left, turn to the right and talk to. If you need some help or you need some guidance, you've got to make more of an effort to pick up the phone or to jump on a Teams or a Zoom call with somebody. And I think, yeah, that's perhaps a little bit more difficult perhaps than it was before. But so yeah, that's again where those presentation skills and a bit of confidence has to come in. The ability to be able to communicate in a remote world is slightly different. But once you're familiar with it, once you're accustomed to it, as we have all become accustomed, and hence we're doing this like this today, then it just becomes second nature.
Absolutely. Going back to what you were saying about interviews, I was having a chat with someone the other day, and I said, this lady was at second interview, and I said, what's going to be the critical factor here is your personality. I said, look, you're up against a few more people. They can all do the job, looking across the CVs. But I said, if you can show, number one, a positive reason for leaving your current job. Number two, like some kind of zest and zeal, and show that you've done a boatload of research on the comp set, also on the hotel, and you can't wait to join them. And it is, for someone like me, I just think that's a given when you go for an interview, but it's not to everyone. It does need saying, along with, you know, look smart and be punctual. It shouldn't need saying, but it does actually need saying. So it's such a crucial thing. Luca, how does that differ in the rail industry, that the skills needed for students in the future, or is that roughly the same?
No, I would say it's the same of what just Chris explained. I guess a little bit of a struggle I had with probably, you know, younger candidates lately is, as you said, that eagerness to actually be there, be present, and get involved with things. A lot of times I feel like there is a lot of stress of what is for them on you know, not only the salary, but, you know, the flexibility and all, which is great. You know what I mean? We're giving flexibility. We want to give flexibility, but there's not that focus around that kind of, you know, those skills about the excitement, about wanting the role, about what they can actually bring to that organization. And especially that I feel, you know, compared to the past, those kind of the energy levels of people really, really went down. That is what is missing a little bit. You know, I do believe, you know, the world has changed, unfortunately, not for good after the pandemic. So, you know, the way people see a job, and of course, you know, we don't leave we go to work because we do a living, not the other way around. But still, I feel that there is missing that passion that I used to see, especially when you think about students entering the industry. It's just it just, you know, faded away a little bit. I think, you know, obviously social media and all haven't really helped, because it seems like nowadays that just everyone wants everything straight away, and they think it's much easier than actually it is, and not so many, unfortunately, want to put the craft. So yeah, there is really missing that passion bit, which is not there, because at the end of the day, in any kind of job, yes, of course, revenue management is for me is very exciting, because it's that mix between analytical and critical thinking, and also communication. But it's just missing that bit which is the attitude, because any kind of job, you know, except maybe if you're a neurosurgeon or whatever, you can actually learn it. And that's what is missing for me, is that eagerness to actually say, okay, I want this, I really want this, I want to make a difference, I want to be great at it. That unfortunately, even though, as you say, Jason, should come automatically to candidates, is missing.
Is that, could that be down to nerves to a certain extent, Luca, that the ability to impress that on the interviewer? Because I mean, I do a lot of guest lecturing at universities, and the guys, last time I was down at University of West London area, the guys were so passionate. So when it was time to ask questions, they were so like, me, put the hand up, I want to ask a question. And I'm in touch with, in fact, I've got one coming, I'm filming next week, got one coming on the show. They contact me, they're eager to come on the show and chat. They want my advice. So I detect a bit of a buzz about it. I'm just wondering when they get to interview, whether there's that little bit of nerves, intimidation. Yeah. Could that be the case?
Absolutely. And I think it's up to us as leaders to make them feel comfortable, to tell when we open an interview, I always say, just be yourself, forget you're in an interview, be you, use the language you would normally use. Don't overcomplicate, don't be too structured. I'm so against, those people that they take notes and they look at the STAR method and all of that. That's absolutely not, because anyone can actually memorize, can be a parrot and repeat. You just want to see a true person. So I think from my point of view, I don't know how everyone else when they interview, but yes, I think we need to be, as leaders, talk the language, make them feel comfortable, so actually you can assess who they are, and stop being in that ivory tower, like I am the company and I'm giving you this opportunity. It's two ways. So I think maybe it's us. I wouldn't say we need to be softer, but we need to be authentic, and we need to make them feel comfortable to speak up. So that's a massive difference. And normally when I do that, I can see actually how they open up and how they change compared to when they get to meet me face to face or over a screen. And 5-10 minutes afterwards, how they actually open up and blossom, and the conversations then we have, they're so much more meaningful.
Yeah. I think it's often advisable to get things on a personal level. I've always been a big believer that people are people. You may be VP of revenue for this company or whatever, but people are people. Most of us have had a holiday, we have a favorite food, we might have a favorite football team, or whatever. We all have hobbies and family, and if we can get things on the same page. And so I always say this to people going to interview: if you look through a LinkedIn profile and there's any kind of synergy there, just mention it, or just mention, I just got back from a holiday in France or wherever, and that may just be a little bit of a synergy there, that the other person says, oh, I went there last year, and suddenly everything's on a more casual basis and everyone relaxes into it. Would you agree with that, Ariane? Because you guys do so much work, don't you, on preparing your guys, and so do Oxford Brookes, another university as well, for a career in revenue management, but in the world of work. You have people like me come and guest lecture, you have CV experts, you do so much. Do you agree that it's really about how the interviewer can kind of set the scene and provide a landscape for the interviewee to kind of flourish within that environment?
I mean, we prepare our students from the first year. We have a specific module that teaches them about graduate employability, because at the University of West London, our tagline is the career university. So we're, from the first day they start at university until they graduate, we're always preparing them for the world of work. So we teach them everything you've said, and I agree with you, Luca, with regards to, hiring people based on who they are and based on their attitude. I know in hotels, for example, you can teach someone to make a coffee, but if they don't have the customer service skills, if they don't have that attitude in them, if they're not real people, they won't get the job. I've had numerous conversations, especially with high-end luxury hotel companies, where really they are hiring a person. They're hiring on attitude, and in the world of luxury, for example, they want people to be much more human and much less formal. So you've got the bog standard CV skills, and we teach them how to write a CV, a cover letter. Although those two things perhaps are not even used anymore, where a lot of companies are now using online applications where CV doesn't exist. So definitely, I think it is our responsibility as educators to prepare the students for the interviews, do your research, show up on time, et cetera, et cetera. But then it is for the students to show who they are in that interview situation. And yes, I mean, I remember when I was interviewing, it's a huge stress level. I mean, you're way up there in terms of trying to show your best side, etc. But a lot of my students, for example, will be working throughout their time at university. A lot of them work part-time. So when they do come to, finding a permanent job, they will already have that experience. They will have already interviewed. They will have already interacted with teams because most of them have operational jobs. But again, yes, I think definitely as educators, we need the students to understand what the expectations are of you guys out there hiring them.
Yeah, I think that's so right. And this is part of the reason for the panel and the show in general. It's finding out really what you guys want as industry leaders, and how the uni can best serve that, and the other way around as well. Let's talk a little bit about parts of the interview process, and one subject which I've been banging on about for quite a while, because it strikes me that there's some disparity here between what just about every uni is providing and what you guys as revenue management leaders are looking for. And Ariane she probably knows what I'm going to say here, but it's Excel. So Microsoft Excel, the unis, and Ariane will be able to talk about this more than me, but the unis do cover it, but I don't believe they cover it in the depth needed for your interview, Chris, because I know that you guys, when you've placed grad roles with us, you have an Excel test. And I know Excel is important to you guys, is it not, Luca? To have a base level of...
Still very relevant, yeah, absolutely.
So I'm just wondering here, is it a case of Excel's dying out and you two still value it because it's not quite gone yet? Is that the case, or is it here to stay, and therefore the uni should be giving more time to upskilling the candidates, or is it down to the grads to go away and learn Excel off their own bat because they want a career in revenue management? And I've covered quite a lot there, but I'll open it up to anyone that wants to answer. Well, Chris, go first.
I think everything you said there is true. I think despite all of the analytical tools coming in, and things like Power BI and Tableau and some of the other partners out there that we work with, and in whether they're revenue management systems, property management systems, etc. I think Excel is here to stay because it has such flexibility, and because it is so universal. So there's a lot that we can do, and there's a lot that we want to do in our business in terms of being smarter and more efficient with our data. But I don't see, certainly in the near future, I don't see Excel going away. And a typical example there, really, I suppose, is even if you look at any of those platforms, like a Tableau or a Power BI, they always have a download to Excel option. So that tells you what you need to know. And so we do an Excel test for our analytical people who come into the business, and it is surprising the range of skills that some of the candidates have, and we it's not a particularly difficult test, because again, the beauty with Excel is that you can teach and you can learn quite quickly. So we do some basic things like some pivot tables and some lookups and some manipulating data, some basic formulas, just to make sure that the candidate actually has that basic awareness and can work with some numbers. It's almost a case of testing their analytical ability or their numerical ability rather than their Excel skills per se. But you're asking them to be able to find a way around a spreadsheet. So I think it's important that the universities do cover that. I think it would be useful if it doesn't happen for universities to go to a deeper level of Excel and actually work through some of the tests and the training courses that are available. But equally, we've taken revenue analysts into our business, and they're self-taught, and we've taken people into the business who don't have a lot of Excel skills, and within a few weeks they've got a lot more than they started with, because it's so easy with YouTube and the training videos that are available there. So I think it's a combination of all those things that you said.
I know you're talking about like what I would term as an intermediate level of Excel. So you're talking VLOOKUP, sum if, count if, and ifs formulas, that kind of thing. Pivot tables is sufficient, would you say?
I think pivot tables is important, and charts and graphs. I mean, the accountants might like to look at a sheet of numbers, but even though I'm doing I'm in an analytical and numerical role, I'd much rather look at a graph or a chart. So the ability, and then as I've talked before about the presentation skills, and Luca mentioned communication, we need to turn our data into visuals in order to tell the story. So the ability to work with those functions you mentioned, but pivot tables and producing graphs and charts that tell a story, I think is critical.
I think it's chance really that you guys are both, you both still value Excel, because I could have another couple of commercial leaders on here that would say the opposite. So, because I've spoken to people industry wide about it, and they've just don't use it anymore. Do you guys? How does it fit into your working day, Luca? Do you guys still value it at that student level?
Yes, absolutely. If I may make an analogy here, Excel in 10 or 20 years is going to be exactly what Latin is at the moment for languages. So it's two millennials that people do not speak Latin, but people still study Latin in schools. It's exactly the same. So when you look at the root of a word, whether it's French, Portuguese, Italian, Spanish, the root is the same. So actually the logic that is underneath Excel is exactly the same logic that you will see in SQL, that you will see in Tableau, that you will see in Power BI. Is exactly the same language, just evolved in a different way. So actually, when you're good in Excel, for you to learn other platforms, because I've learned, even though I'm not really using it as a developer, but I use Tableau from time to time, I use Power BI from time to time. When you actually know Excel, you have the same intermediate level, which is exactly what Chris said, that kind of level. Anything else you will understand, because it's the same at school. No, why would you need to learn arithmetics if you can use a calculator, right? Why do you need to learn how to write if you can just type on a computer? For me is exactly the same. It might be in 20, 30 years, but that's how it is. It's what we call actually in Latin, just to go back to Latin, is a forma mentis, which is the way your brain functions, the way your brain is structured and you think. So absolutely, Excel will stay, not per se, but the theory beneath that, it will stay there from my point of view.
And it's a gateway to learning more, isn't it? If you want to go down like a data science route and you wanted to go from Excel to SQL to R programming, Tableau, like you say, it is a process, isn't it? It's a gateway towards those deeper languages, I suppose. So, Ariane, it is covered in the syllabus, isn't it? Excel with you guys. I would imagine you squeeze for time, aren't you, to fit everything into the students' brains for the time that you've got them. Is it down for them to go away and seek their own learning outside university, because you're teaching revenue management, the fundamentals of it?
I mean, I've just been taking some notes here, but certainly we don't teach Excel to that level at all. In the first year, the students have a finance module where they, use Excel, but it's very basic sums and things like that. Now, you have to remember that, I'm teaching and managing a hospitality management course. Revenue management is just one module that takes place in the final year. And it's gone actually from being an option module to being a core module. So now all the students that will be graduating from the University of West London will have, undertaken that revenue management course. And I think that's fantastic. And Jason, you've seen the students and the enthusiasm they have for it. Now, there's things out there like LinkedIn Learning and as you were saying, Chris and Luca, the students might not have super great knowledge, but they learn. And what we want to teach the students as well, but more on a more general level, is to be curious and to reflect on the skills they have and the skills perhaps they don't necessarily have and the skills they will need to join a revenue management job. A lot of our students, as I said, have operational experience. Revenue management is still only a small percentage of our graduates, but it's really, as I said, something we want to push. And in the final year, when we teach the revenue management software, we do a lot of case studies. We use a simulation software, but perhaps, I'm going to have to add to that curriculum a LinkedIn Learning or some kind of an advanced Excel course, so that the students will be equipped with that when they come and meet you guys in interview.
And it's a really good point. You guys obviously cover every department in the hotel and not just revenue management. So you're really squeezed for time. And I would imagine, certainly from talking to you and Kate at Oxford Brookes and some others, certainly with the overseas students, that they are more ops focused than commercially focused. So you're really trying to change mindsets in a little bit of way, or maybe just I am, change mindsets towards a more commercial, awareness that actually a career in revenue management, be it, in rail or whatever, or hotels, is actually viable. You don't have to just go down the operations route. Is that true, or are most of them more ops focused?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a large percentage of international students, and they are very much ops focused, because when they go home, those are the kind of jobs that they get. It's, front of house, kitchen, etc. Now we have to change the mindset. I mean, I started dabbling in revenue management in 1997 before I moved to the UK. And it was just at its beginnings. But I think we want to also make the students aware of the different options they have career-wise within the hospitality industry. Apologies, Luca, we don't generally talk about rail, but why not? Those good transferable skills. But certainly, a lot of the students want to get into sales and marketing, for example. But it's very difficult to get into sales and marketing as a junior, as a first job. People ask for experience. So that's where we have a little bit of an issue there with getting them into the commercial jobs. Apologies, I'll just sign off. I have a cough.
No, you're okay. Absolutely fine.
Yeah, I think there's an interesting point there about it's difficult. I appreciate that. It's difficult to get into even to the junior roles, and as we as employers are asking for experience. But I think back to a previous conversation you and I have had, Jason, and actually Ariane was talking about it there. And a lot of students have jobs whilst they're studying, and a lot of them are doing bar work, restaurant work, shop work, whatever it happens to be. We shouldn't underestimate that experience, because you're face to face with customers. So we've talked here about the revenue management commercial skill set requires communication and requires customer understanding. So whatever experience you can bring along that has that is going to be a feather in the cap for any candidate, and help get the foot in the door and get onto the career pathway.
Absolutely.
You agree with that, Luca?
Yeah, absolutely. Just a prime example, just talking about us. We had a guy that I took, I guess, the risk, but I wouldn't say a risk. First off his job, he used to work at Foot Locker, okay? He's head and shoulders above other graduates I had with master's degree in business analytics. So, again, attitude, knowing how to talk with customers, knowing how to talk to people, self-drive, everything else you learn. And yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. On to something a little bit different, but something that I'm a big fan of listening to different podcasts, and Diary of a CEO is my current favorite. I don't know if you've heard it, but they did a show recently on AI, and ChatGPT, I suppose, has opened a lot of us up to thinking about AI when we previously weren't. Absolutely terrifying. That the show is just like, talking a little bit about the capabilities in the future. And I just thought, what does this mean for revenue management? But then I thought, what does this mean for Ariane? Because if you can get ChatGPT to do your entire, case study and do all your work for you, how do you guard against that as a university?
Well, that's actually really interesting. We had a meeting about this yesterday, and we were comparing sort of the advent of AI to, when Google came along and the internet came along. And as educators at the time, we were absolutely thinking, how are we going to deal with this? Everything is going to come from Google. We don't need, teachers are going to disappear. And it didn't happen. So I think, what we're doing, ChatGPT really has been around for, 6 months or so in the public domain. I use it myself. I put my assignment briefs into ChatGPT and see what comes out the other end. And I will be showing the students. So like Google, like anything else, I think the students are going to have to, it won't go away. It's only going to get better. And we have to teach the students to use AI responsibly. Just like, there's so much legislation out there trying to get social media to be more responsible. I think certainly from an educational perspective, it means that we need to push the critical analysis skills of the students even more, because ChatGPT hallucinates. It can give you absolute nonsense. And if you put into it, write me an essay about a cat, and it tells you a cat is a marine mammal that lives in Antarctica, and you don't know any different, then you're just going to say, okay, a cat is a marine mammal. So we absolutely have to teach the students how to use AI. And as I said, it will only get more and more intelligent. It's absolutely frightening the speed at which it, comes up with answers to questions. But for revenue management, I think AI it's going to make a lot of things that are a bit redundant and slow and boring faster. All the, analyzing all the data, that will be so much quicker. And that will allow the human to work on those communication skills that you were talking about, Luca. You're still going to need humans that are going to be able to understand the data and communicate it and make, management decisions. So for the moment, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm probably on a 12 as far as being completely freaked out with this. But as I said, we're going to have to use it, and we're going to have to teach the students how to use it intelligently.
Yeah, well, Diary of a CEO says this may result in us not becoming the dominant species on Earth anymore. We'll be second to these robots. So I don't know where that leaves us.
Well, robots are not very good at serving coffee. They tend to spill and things like that. I think there'll always be a space in the hospitality industry for human contact, etc. But who knows what the world will look like in 20 years.
Absolutely. Guys, where does this leave the revenue manager of the future? ChatGPT and AI. Luca?
Well, from my point of view, I wholeheartedly agree with Ariane. So, change is something that we should never be scared of. We should embrace. So nothing would ever stay the same over time. Things will evolve. As Ariane said, more time to actually do the cool stuff, and more time to actually focus on building up those connections, influencing others, and communicate more. This has been already evolving, and again, in any industry, in any job role, and not only revenue management, bottom line is you got to be there to add value. And there are several ways to add value. You will free up the time rather than being there doing the daily report, all boring by hand, and all that's going to be all done. There will still be someone that is the same with a very sophisticated RMS. There is still someone then looking at that and actually taking the final decisions and communicating those to the wider business. So and that's the thing, COVID got us a few steps back when it comes to communicating. Actually, now it's more important than ever, and will get more and more and more important. I would really invite all, students or fresh graduates and all really to work on that, on communicating effectively and focusing on what are their USPs and what are the areas that can actually add value.
So even more focus on soft skills than before, really. That's been a running theme throughout this chat, hasn't it? Chris?
Yeah, I agree. I think I kind of always think of this cliche, everything changes, everything stays the same. These big changes Ariane mentioned, the internet, Google. I was, someone listening to a guest speaker yesterday talking about Netflix. All these things come in and the rapid growth, massive change. But after a matter of time, it just becomes part of our normal life, and nothing changes. You just carry on. I think in terms of AI and our job, it is there to make our jobs make us smarter, more efficient, and make our jobs easier. If I can have AI helping me with the analytics to identify the exceptions, then I can have cluster revenue managers in the hotel world. Instead of doing 3 hotels, maybe they can do 6, because they've got that assistance to lead them to the points of focus that they need to be given attention to, rather than them having to do the legwork to find those areas of focus themselves. And then I think, yeah, as we've been talking through this, it then allows them to actually take action. They take those analytical skills and take it forward to an action that is going to improve performance, rather than being an analyst that's producing reports and trying to find the pieces of information that they're looking for.
So the consensus here is that it's a positive thing rather than a negative thing. We're working with the technology rather than against it. Will the role of revenue managers still be around in 10 years, or will it have morphed into a wider commercial role? Anybody can answer that.
I wish I knew. I wish I knew the answer to that. I don't know. I think the role has already evolved. I think the commercial skill sets are already coming together much more, with much greater compatibility and much more understanding than maybe they did in the past. But I do still think that there are particular skill sets that are distinct. So in the short term, I think that the separation of the commercial skills probably remains. I think we're seeing more and more commercial manager, commercial director titles.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that probably will continue. But I still think I personally still think that there will be some of the specific skills that you need within marketing or within sales or within revenue management will remain. But yeah, we can do anything we like with job titles.
Yeah, a great RM doesn't necessarily make a great director of marketing or a great sales manager. Would you agree, Luca?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree fully with Chris. So the change has been already happening over the last 10 years or so, and it will keep changing. Those skills will always remain important. They will just broaden. And then again, job titles, it is what it is, It's the same with the commercial manager or commercial director. Means different things in hospitality compared to other industries. In other industries, more around contract management, actually. And constructions, again, is different. For us, commercial, what is that? Is in reality sales and revenue management and marketing in a nutshell. But yeah, it's just all this function for me that will just merge together and be closer and closer. But yeah, it will still remain the same.
And you guys are well placed here, aren't you, Ariane? I suppose because you cover so much as part of your syllabus that you're already producing well-rounded individuals and the commercial leaders of the future.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to reinforce this sort of commercial umbrella, but we certainly teach sales and marketing. We teach digital marketing, and revenue management. But I mean, personally, I think, having been in sales, I think the skill set of a sales manager, where you need persuasion, negotiation. If you're working, I was a key account manager for a big French hotel chain. Is one thing. A marketing person is going to be looking at different things, and a revenue manager again needs a different skill set and a different understanding, perhaps, and more of an understanding of operations, for example. I think if you're, to be a good revenue manager, you need to understand the operations of whether it's a hotel or train, or whatever. But certainly, yes, we do give the students exposure to all of those different, areas. We tend to focus on the theoretical rather than on the practical. But then when the students come to you, Chris or Luca, I'm hoping that they will have that theoretical knowledge that they can then use, and that you can also use to mold them for the specific needs of your own companies. Mm-hmm. And I think revenue management will, in the future, change. As you said, Luca, everything is changing. But I think, perhaps from a profit perspective and from the perspective of hotel owners, and what they're trying to get out of, I don't know much about rail, Luca, I'm afraid, but certainly, hotel owners for people like RBH, and, the bottom line profit. That commercial is going to be really a huge focus on return on investment and things like that, asset management, which are also things, another topic, but things we touch on.
I think you made a really interesting point there, Ariane, actually, in that traditionally sales and marketing has gone together. I would argue that actually the sales and marketing are moving further away than they've been in the past, and marketing probably is more closely aligned to the revenue management skills traditionally now, because marketing now is much less visuals, is much less sort of paper posters and things like that. It's much more digital and analytical, looking for the ROI, looking for the return on ad spends and impact and followers, etc., which is the analytical side of revenue management. So it's that separation between sales and marketing. I think it's quite interesting when we talk of the three skill sets together. And then interesting. You mentioned their asset management towards the end there, because I think I see a lot of revenue managers going into asset management and vice versa, which is an interesting development.
Absolutely. Guys, that's pretty much all we've got time for this week. But as I say, thank you so much for joining me. I know you're all knee-deep in budgets. Ariane, you've got a new cohort to get started and move forward. So thank you so much. We're hoping to replicate this panel as a live event in person at University Open Days, University Careers Days. And I know you're all really invested in doing that and seeing this kind of develop. So you may be seeing us, some of the students may be seeing us live pretty soon, which is very exciting. So thank you so much for coming on.
Welcome. You're welcome, Jason.
Yeah, very welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Everyone.
Bye.
That's all we've got time for this week. And like and share the program because it helps us attract cool guests. But how do you get cooler than these three guests? See you next week. Thank you.